Okay, introduce yourself for those who might not know who you are.
Oh, my name is Bg183. I represent a crew called Tats Cru. That I've been painting right now close to, I would say, 40 years now. So this is the place called The Point. I'm here today to talk about Bg183.
Okay, what borough and neighborhood are you from?
Oh, I'm from the boogie down Bronx. I've been here all my life. I've been here since the burning of the South Bronx. Like this is like a place that I call home. I think this is a place that I've been here for so long. What can I say?
Okay, when did you start noticing graffiti?
Graffiti always been around since I started, like in the earlys, because I remember people used to do that love. They used to take the word love and they used to do like letters. I remember people doing that, or they used like the S. They do like through 6 lines coming from up and down, and then they connect the S. I remember that being like first time me doing letters. And then you had like the gang signs that people was like gang members in the street that was doing like that type of work. And it was mostly like tags, like old tags, but I didn't know that was called graffiti. I thought basically I saw people just writing their name on the walls, and this is how everything came about. I think it was like really early, but when I really heard the word graffiti is when I was started going to high school. I was taking the subways and I was seeing colors on the trains, and it just like it just popped to me because at the same time I was an artist that was drawing every day. I was drawing every day since a kid. And I did chalk drawing, I did black and white, I did charcoal, stencils. I was doing stencil in junior high school. Anything that was representing into art, I was doing.
Okay,
And so when I was going in Janesboro High School, I was in a major art class in the 10th grade, and I started seeing doing all this type of art. But when I noticed that the only art form that I haven't really learned or taught myself to do was graffiti. And so I started asking around, and then I had ran into my partner Bio, became my partner later on, BIO, and he was already writing way before me. He was into it like a year or two, and I asked him what's going on with this? I love this type of graffiti, and he was like, oh, you got to get yourself a name. I said, name? He said, yeah, you can't be writing your name in the streets. You have to represent and write a different name. So I'm over here next day in my house trying to come up with some name. I came out with like Tats, D-A-Z, Gap, I don't know, like I was trying to get a name. It was kind of hard.
okay. Who were some of the artists that you seen up at the time?
And again, in that beginning, when you start, you don't really see that many artists because you just a toy that's learning. That takes a while for you to come up and start seeing names. But after being 6 months into the game, I started seeing in the street art, I started seeing a lot of Pre-Sweet, GMAN, Flasher. These guys was they were part of my neighborhood. Bg183. I was seeing a lot, and this was street bombers. Because that's what I used to do. I used to walk around the street, and then in the subways, you started seeing Scene. He was really hurting the 80s. He was doing these 6 trains, and he was getting really busy. And you had the Mitch, you had the Lees, You know, Lee was doing murals on walls that you had to travel like really far to see. And, you know, those are the people that are really got me into like getting into more graffiti. You know, when I got into it like in a year.
Okay, are those the people that influenced you?
Yes, because those are people that definitely influenced me because that's the only thing you had. You know, you didn't have internet like you do now. Like right now, you could type in your favorite artist on Google and go to image and see whoever image you want to see. Back then, you had to travel. You had to really travel to a different part of town to see a mural like a piece that got painted in a wall. Or you had to really stay in the subways on the station and see trains passing by. And that's how you know, like that's how you got your style from, like, you know, like what people was doing with the spray paint colors.
Okay, what year did you start writing?
I started like early 80s. You know, that was like the first time that, you know, that I said to myself, I'm gonna do this. You know, so early 80s had to be, you know, the time that I started writing.
Okay, how did you come up with the name BG183?
Okay, Bg183, like I was saying earlier, that, you know, I needed to come up with a name, and so I liked it, the B, I liked it, you know, the R, you know. Actually, I came up with a name called BRING, B-R-I-N-G, and that's because when I used to play a lot of like baseball, you know, I was really nice in baseball. They used to say, you know, my name was, you know, they used to call me by Chicky. They said, Chicky, bring the batters in. So that word bring sounded really good during that time. So I said to myself, let me try these letters, the B-R-I-N-G, and I liked it how that sound. And then throughout like a year later, until I was writing Bring, I decided that, you know, maybe it was too long. You know, I needed to like, you know, do my throw up a little much quicker. So I just took the B and the G. The number was kind of like a number that I just choose. You know, again, you have famous artists, you know, T.A.T 183 that had a 183. You had people that had numbers, but I didn't even know those guys. You know, I was still learning. You know, I was still mostly doing like the bombing and, you know, trying to establish my letters, my hand styles. So me and a friend of mine, I used to battle with almost every day. In James Monroe High School, we used to battle with each other. And one of the battle was how many style of letters he could do. So I remember doing the battle with him and losing the battle with him because he did more style than me. So I went home and I tried like different type of connection, like from triangle to arrows to circles to whatever shape to make letters. So when we did it again, you know, he told me, man, you look like you got like 183 style, like joking around with me. And I took that number and that became my name, BG183.
Okay, who was the first writer you met and how did y'all meet?
Okay, again, the first writer I met had to be Bio. And I met Bio through James Monroe High School. And it's a funny story because, you know, I had weight training gym. You know, I was in a weight training gym. And Bio was only like a PE student. He just came into James Monroe High School. And that day, that first day of school, you know, I had forgotten to bring my locker to lock my clothes in because you had to change into your gym clothes. So I was like, man, I need to get my clothes somewhere. So I started looking around and I saw this skinny guy. I said, yo, my friend, you know, can I put my clothes in your locker? And he looked at me like, who's this guy? And I said, yo, can I put my clothes, you know, just because of gym? And he said, all right, cool. and I put my clothes in there. Then, you know, when it was over, I got my clothes back, and I said thank you. And then the next day, I did the same thing again. I forgot my locker, and I'm looking for the skinny guy. And then next thing you know, I found him again. And I think the third day, he was hiding from me. I think this guy didn't want to see me again. But it's funny because that same day, I didn't see him. I had major art class, you know, like again, and then I'm here, I'm drawing, you know, I'm doing this, you know, this typical drawing like you do it like in class, still life drawing. And I looked over, and right next to me, there was a guy like this, holding up his paper. And I said, and I didn't notice him till 10 minutes later, and I looked, and he kept going like that, and I looked, and it was bio. I said, yo, what up, man? It looked surprising, you know. And then I saw him that he was doing letters. I met him. You know, we had another writer called Bomb 5. They also went to Jamesboro High School with us. We had another artist called Poem. And I think Poem was the one who actually sat down with me and showed me like more style of letters. And Poem was like one of the guys that was really, really good in doing letters. So I learned a lot from him. And then the rest is just me taking up, you know, by myself, like taking style from everybody. You know, there was people that was active during that time in the 80s, because you got to remember, like, a lot of these artists that was writing in the 70s had stopped writing in the 80s because they felt like, you know, I'm not gonna write no more. A lot of the artists went into the galleries, you know, like Crash, the Lady Pink, the Days, the Lee Quinones. You know, these guys went into the galleries, and as you know, T.A.T. wanted to do trains only. So that was our mission. So there was like only a few stuff to really follow during that time, you know, and that's how, you know, everything evolved with me.
Okay. What crews are you down with?
Actually, when I first started, you know, before, I think, you know, during the same time during the T.A.T. era, there was another crew that was really active. They was called SPI. You know, there was Rest in Peace, Ed Rock. Okay, you gonna hold it? Okay. And during that time, like, you know, when I started writing with a crew called T.A.T., also with another crew called SPI. And SPI was a crew that was like, they were mostly inside bombers. They only did inside of the train. They didn't really do the outside. They were like the masters of ink. So we had Ed Rock, rest in peace Ed Rock, Mellow, and Phase. So it was like those three, but they was always active doing trains. So, and I remember asking them, yo, can I go up with you? And they look at me like, again, I was a beginner. I was like a toy, and they gave me a break. They said, okay, come. And they knew I had style, and they knew that I was willing to go out there and represent, you know, what I believe in, like writing. So they took me on, and next thing you know, I'm going up with them doing the inside. But during that time, I loved doing more the outside, so I kept doing inside, but more outside, and it just switched over for me doing more colors with outside than ink.
Okay, you mentioned Tats Cru. How did Tats Cru come together?
Okay, and that group T.A.T., you know, you had BRIM, the one who came up with the name, MAC BIO, and another writer called Bass. And these four artists, they met in junior high school, like in '79, and they started the crew T.A.T. I met them like a year and a half later in Jamesboro High School when Bio was there, and Bio was writing for T.A.T. But they was only doing like typical insides. There was like no really like no colors, no mural. I think Bio had did a piece. He had did like a Pink Panther piece, you know, and for me it was dope to see that. And, you know, so that was like the time. And then I met Brim, and Bio had spoken to him, look, I got this guy that wants to write T.A.T. And Brim looked at me, and he like, okay, let him represent, you know, T.A.T. And then ever since, you know, from the beginning, I just been rocking, you know what I'm saying? I brought in the art into T.A.T. You know, like, you know, that time, again, I was doing so much art that I could do whatever I want with a spray can that, again, you know, I taught myself how to create images that, you know, like people, when they look at my finished work, they think I did it with a nail brush, they think I did it with a paintbrush, but it's all done, you know, like a lot of years of painting, you know, and practice. I definitely improved, like, you know, everything that I do. I could do buildings with spray paint. I could do faces, eyes, lips, hands, background, you know, whatever it is, you know, I could do that with a spray can. And when the job is finished, they think I'm using a stencil. Oh, what, that's stencil? I said, no, that's all strictly can control.
Okay, who are some of the members of Tats Cru?
You know, a lot of the members of Tats Cru are Ken, Kenn, Sam 2, Shane 125, Mac, like I mentioned earlier, Bio, Nicer, Brim. You also have Raz with the S and Raz with the Z. Raz with the Z was like an animal when he was painting. This guy used to go up almost every day. And you have, you know, there's a few more that, you know, offhand, but, you know, in the members, there was a lot. You had also, later on, you had Fat Joe, Karis one, that was part of T.A.T., that they wrote T.A.T. So, you know, during the time that we was painting T.A.T., we also was doing work for a lot of hip-hop heads like Flash, Houdini, did work for Africa Bambaataa. You know, I also painted the inside of Bronx River Center with Brim. So where the hip-hop shows and hip-hop video that you watch back in the days, you know, I'm the one who painted that whole background with the characters, with the records. You see like Red Alert, DJing, and the background, the whole background was done by me and Brim. And, you know, like, I think a lot of cats in the world don't even know that this is the work that I have done. You know, I did a rest in peace memorial wall for Cowboy from Grandmaster Flash that he had passed away. You know, and I think it was, you know, for me it was like I was there when it was happening. You know, like the beginning of you know, like that music era, you know what I'm saying? Like they say hip hop, or in the word of DJing, you know, they started back in 1969 playing music. And you had the rappers that started early. And, you know, I was there during that time. You know, I was born in the South Bronx where you know, the burning of the buildings, you know, like right across the street was like the burning of the building that later on it was called the South Bronx is burning, you know. So, and during that time, you know, I remember those buildings was not like, you know, it was not safe for anybody who walked by. A lot of people got robbed, you know, like people got kidnapped inside there, you know. And it was a bad time, you know, it was like bad time for anyone, you know. But for us growing up as kids, you know, we didn't see that. For us, it was like, you know, like let's take the bandit building and play tag or play rondo or jump off the window into mattresses. And that's what we did, you know, that's what we did every day. We did street sports like Skirtsies, you know, we play pitching in against the wall, you know, basketball, two-hand touch football, anything to keep us going during that time. What everybody was complaining that they had no money, and people was robbing people for sneakers, jacket, coats. It was during that hard time, and I think during that time, it just kept me active. It kept me aware what's going on. So when I got into the graffiti, I already had an idea what to do. So when I got chased by police, I got away. If they were chasing me, I would go down the pole, I would go up the pole, whatever it took to get away, because I grew up, playing those kind of sport that kept me active, so I wasn't afraid. Because a lot of artists that got into graffiti, got caught right away. They would say to them, "Yo, you writing graffiti?" The cop would say, "You writing graffiti?" And the cop would say, "Come over here," and they would come up to the cop and get arrested. And they would have caught me writing graffiti. I would look at them and be out, So that's how you knew, like, who was gonna be writing in the next, 40 years, like I've been doing. Like, a lot of people wrote. We have people that come to the office almost, like a couple of years back, because, they used to come like, "Oh, I used to write graffiti back in the days, blah, blah, blah. I got caught, and that's the reason I stopped." Or they're like, "Oh, I did it, but I had to go to school, I had to work." But it was kind of hard because, you really had the love for it, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you really had to take paint. And the paint situation was kind of like hard because, like, I heard a lot of graffiti artists that wrote in the 70s, they were saying it was like the best time they had, But what happened with us in the 80s, it was kind of hard because it was hard to get paint because everybody racked so much during the 70s that a lot of store owners already knew that, all my spray can, I'm not going to order no more spray can, or I have to lock them up inside like a gate. So it was kind of hard for us to, like, really go racking. So most of the time we had to go really far away, like go to Philly, go to New Jersey, up in Connecticut, just to go racking. Sometime we used to go racking and maybe one person got caught. You know what I'm saying? So not everybody made it back when we started racking. So you had paint, and then during that time when you had to travel so much that if you get somebody that used to come into the train and they had paint, they was gonna get, automatically the paint was gonna get taken. Even we took like one or all of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it was because, and that's the reason why we took the paint, not because, we didn't like you. It was in our blood already. We needed to get our name out there and paint. I remember, doing so many trains with Bio, with Nicer, did painting with Sponge. I did painting with Mac. I did painting with Brim. Raz with the Z, Shane. I did painting with T.A.T. Everybody was, we was always painting. So we would team up and meet up in a designated area, like the crew, and we would decide, okay, look, I brought 5 cans. I had 5 cans. Somebody had 6. Somebody brought 4, 3, and then I would use my can, and whatever left over, I would share it with the other crew members. I see they could do whatever they need to do with the colors, and I think that was like, the beginning of us working as a team. Not like, I'm better than you, but that always been the case. We always say that, I'm better than you, but it was always in fun, because we were the crew. So that's how the skill level got to be, higher in our crew because, we always used to say, yo, man, that's what you did? Look at that 3D. Yo, you caught a drip. You're going to fix that drip. Oh, look at that character. It doesn't have no hands. You don't put hands. So that's how we learn throughout the years, like how to improve. And I was like always competitive in every time that I paint. So, like, I always want to be the nicest. So, and that's how I came to, to do the stuff that I do now.
Okay, let's talk about your style. Did anyone influence your style early on, or were you self-taught?
No, like in the sense of doing letters, again, I had the poem, and then you go out and see the walls. You had the dusters, the scene, the Mitch 77. I remember going all the way to 161st Street on the 4 train, get up right there on the uptown side to see a Mitch 77 on a billboard, and he did like some incredible colors, some beiges, some greens, and it was like so funky, and the way he did the letters, so again, that's what like how I got influenced by looking at each style, how they did it, like, then you had other writers that was rocking during that time. You had like the FBA crew that was, rocking on the other side of town, so you had to like look at their style, but for me, I think I just took it upon myself just to continue creating, like taking my style and improving of what I'm doing. Like I used to go home and spend hours just to improve. And not only that I did outline on paper, but those outline I did on the train, or I did them on the wall. So, a lot of writers was only doing black book pages, but I'm doing black book and I'm doing the wall, so I was also improving that. And then, some of my crew members noticed like how my style was improving, was asking me, to be, they ghost writers, like, I'm gonna have maybe Beach do an outline for me. And I used to do outline, for my crew. And, that was like an honor. I loved it, like when they came up to me. Even I didn't get a chance to go up with them, because at that time, I was kind of like getting older. I had to like get a job, it was time to pay the rent. So like, during that time, I had to really like, after high school, I had to really like, work more than, go. And then in the weekends, I would go up with the guys and do what I need to do, paint the trains. But
Okay. Did you ever go to the writer's bench at 149th Street? And who are some of the artists that you would always see up there?
when I used to go, my first time going to 149th Street at the bench, it was kind of like scary. It's like, again, you gotta look at me as a toy. Even after a year of writing, that's how I found out that where all the writers go, 149th Street, and you hear rumors that guys will get robbed for their black book, or they get beat down by another crew. So, I used to go there by myself, and then we started going as a crew. But in the beginning, it was like, seeing, I didn't know who was who, because there was so many. There was like 10 people, 10 guys in one area hanging out. So I didn't know who was a writer, who was doing that. I know I got to meet other writers that I probably met there, like Snow. I met a writer called Snow, Miser. But I think in during that time, I think, people didn't really be like, hey, that's you, because nobody knew, nobody had a face. Like right now, there is a gathering of people know who's who, because, they had the videos, and you could see everybody's faces, but back then, you didn't know who the fuck was who. You like, it could be one of the best artists next to you, and, you don't know who he was. So in that time, if you only crews hang out with crews, so that's how they knew. And now, you ask somebody and they gave you that love and that respect and told you, oh, that's you, Oh, I remember one time when I met Ken, Ken, and he was talking kind of like loud and stuff like that, and he was saying, oh man, that guy BG and that guy Bio, they're destroying the 6 line, I would like to meet them, and I'm standing next to him. And then next thing we told him who he was, and he said, that's not your guys. I said, yeah, that's us. And then I remember going, after that, going up with them and stuff like that. And that's how it was, during that time. Like if I had like a favorite artist, I never really met because it was kind of hard, because you don't know, you didn't know who was who. You knew he wrote because he had paint on his sneakers, or he had inks in his hand. He had paint on his sneakers, or he had ink in his hand. That's how you knew who was who. At that time, you didn't know who was who.
Okay, what lines did you write on, and did you king any?
To call myself king, I could never call myself king. But did I rock on lines? Yes. I rocked the 6 line, I rocked the 5 line, I rocked the 2 line. And, people that know the history, they know, that I really, really went in. Also I was doing outline for a lot of artists. So my style was there, and, I did what I needed to do, you know what I'm saying? Like, not only that I was doing, rocking the lines, we was doing work. You know what I'm saying? Like, because the work on the line was good, but we also was doing work for like, African Bambaataa, like I said earlier, with painting the Bronx River. We was also doing work, we did music videos during that time, so we was really into it, into trying to not take graph to a different level, but, making money out of it at the same time, doing something that you love to do.
Okay, what are some of your favorite layups to hit back in the days?
Okay, one of my favorite had to be from Hunts Point to Longwood, and then you had Longwood to 149, then 149 to Cypress, and then you had like the Sombiew to San Lawrence to Castle Hill. Those are layups. So I did tunnels, I did layups, and then the yards, I did the 4 yards, I did the 5 and 2 yards, and the 5 and 2 layups. I also did Utica in Brooklyn, and one of the best places that we went was 207, and that was it's called the Ghost Yard. And that's one of the best places that, you could go in anytime and paint for hours and hours and not get harassed by no one, not even the workers, not even the police. So we pulled out a lot of trains from there.
Okay, so what were your peak years on the subway?
The peak years had to be early 80s to probably last one maybe 85. And then after that, I had to work and stuff like that, but always painted and always did outline. But I think that was like the peak of my work that people, know about.
Okay, did you ever hit the 1 tunnel?
No, never went into the 1 tunnel.
Okay, who was your biggest rivalries on the subways at the time?
Robbery was not too many, because probably we got into it with a crew. Okay, before I answer, robbery meaning like the enemy.
Yeah, like
Okay.
somebody you would
I thought
battle.
that mean that. Okay, so during that time, like having beef with a crew was like maybe UBA. I don't know how that came about. I know they were rocking the 6 line and we were rocking the 6 line. And one day we met in Wedlock, and we had it out with some words like, yeah, fuck you, and F that, F this, F you. And that was basically it, what I'm saying? I don't think they wanted it with us, so they got back on the train. And I think that was it, like in the early 80s, and then everybody else, I think after what we was doing, our reputation. I think a lot of crews was not really trying to like, go against us because not only that we was doing the trains again, we was doing like we was part of Zulu Nation, we was part of a bigger crew. I lived here and Simpson Street. You know what I'm saying? So we had our own crew here, and I had the Hunts Point crew. So it was like it was family. In our case, it was mostly family. Like I was not depending on them, and they was not depending on me. We just was a group that loved, doing that early year, like going to clubs, going, doing whatever we could do in the early '80s.
Okay, did you ever battle someone on the subway or a wall, and who did you battle, and what was the outcome?
Battle against the wall, I don't think no one. There was one battle, that I did like in 2000, but that really was not a battle. So it was just, it was the artist called Sade. That came about something like, oh, he wanted to battle something, so we battled. But every day is a battle. You know what I'm saying? Like any time you peace with somebody, it's considered a battle. Like, if you ask me to paint with you, like at the end of the day, they'll be like, oh shit, nigga, BG burned that, you know what I'm saying? So that's how it is, like I think people would like to see a two-man painting with each other, because then you can say, okay, I like this style better than this guy's style. That's it. Not because you're battling, it's just somebody might prefer one style over the next style. So, that's always was the case. And even when I was looking at trains from back in the days, you would say that, oh, like I remember seeing a Scene and a Mitch train, you know what I'm saying? I remember seeing Duster and Scene, and then you would pick which one you liked the most, you know what I'm saying? That's how it was. So it's always been like that since the beginning when I first started writing graph.
Okay, I know you probably have a few stories. Tell us your favorite raid story or chase story and who was involved.
One of the stories of us getting chased is one time we up in, I think I remember up in St. Lawrence or Castle Hill. I think was in Zariga. Yes, it was in Zariga. And I remember painting with Bio, a guy named Fo, I think Coates, Ken, and back. So I think it was a total of like 5 of us. And we went up and we supposed to do one car. And then everybody decided that day that I should rock everybody's outline. So I was the one who's gonna do everybody's outline and that evening. And so as we approached the layup, now we in the layup, we're about to, do the train, I decided to cross over the train, like climb and go from the uptown side to the downtown side. So when I did that, I saw somebody crossing the track. I said, wait a minute, who's that crossing the track? So I came back, I said, yo guys, I think I seen somebody crossing the track. I said, for real? I said, yeah. And then I went back to see, I didn't see no one. Then I think somebody came with me, and they were looking, they're like, you seen things. I said, nah, I seen somebody crossing the track. So we ready to start painting. I hear somebody on the bottom part, because now we in the layup. So on the bottom part of the layup, the guy screaming, yo, you're under arrest. Stop what you're doing, stay right there. And we look down, and I say, wow, see, I knew it. And the next thing you know, the guy that I saw earlier, he started kind of screaming like Tarzan. He was going like, oh, like that, for us to run in a direction. I see, because we didn't know how many cops there was. So for me, it could be 5 to 6. But they made it seem there was a whole bunch of them, but when they chased us for us to go to the platform, like into the station and go down the stairs and break out. But I remember running like that. So he chased us, and the guy in the top chased us. So we running to one direction, and he got the Tarzan scream. The other guy saying, "Yo, we got you, we got you." And we kept kind of like jogging, running. Then we got into the platform, went down the stairs. Sure enough, the partner was down the stairs, and he grabbed back the graffiti artist. He grabbed him, he yoked him up, and I'm seeing that, so I ran back upstairs. And the other guys that was on the top, he was like, he was still trying to chase us. And I remember seeing Bio and Coast running. Kent started running also. And I think I'm not sure Sam was there, but I remember the detective or the vandal squad, he was running. But what I did, I stood next to there was a young lady standing there. I stood next to the young lady like this, looking, like, I didn't run, and I remember him running by me, and he's looking at me like, but he looked like he was tired because remember, we was all the way in half of the station. And I remember when he saw me, I just ran back to the area that we was painting at, and I just hid. And then I went back. I climbed down the pole, and then I just got on the train, and I went home. And I remember saying to myself, "Wow, I have to go back," because we left bag of paints. So I said, I'm going back. So like 3 hours later, I decided I'm going back. So I got on the train. I slowly got off the train, started looking around, jumped in the track, and I looked for the bag of paint. I never found the bag of paint. I don't know if the cops took the bag of paint or one of the artists took the bag of paint. I remember it being gone, and that was like one of the chase that I remember having.
Okay. How did you meet Joe and Pond?
Okay, Joe, I know him for a lot of years before the rap game. He used to come through a lot, and I remember him. And I remember one time we was doing a job for Carrots One. I don't know, it was I think it was the Mad Lion video. What we're doing for Mad Lion, we was painting a lion's head, if I'm not mistaken, and Fat Joe came through, and he said, "Yo, what's up?" And he told us like T.A.T, because he was also a graffiti artist. He wrote Crack, T.S, and he said, "Yo, I got love for y'all." Boom, yeah, boom. We're like, "Oh wow, look at this guy," and he was like a really big guy, and we were like, "Oh, you're a graffiti artist, yeah, cool." And then BRIM, him and BRIM clicked, and they started going crazy, bombing all over the place. BRIM, T.A.T, Crack, T.S. And Joe was doing his thing. He said, "Yo, I'm ready to drop an album, my first album. What's up? We need to get busy with each other." And then he got his own contract to promote himself, to do to promote his album, doing slaps all over the place. So we started, going with Joe everywhere. We went to Queens, we went to Brooklyn, we went to the Bronx, went to Manhattan, went to Staten Island. We was going everywhere. We were putting Fat Joe posters everywhere. Everywhere we went, stickers everywhere. I remember one time we put up so much stickers in Queens in one block that the cop came and they grabbed Bio. They told Bio, "Look what you just did." When we look back, it was destroyed, the whole block destroyed. And they let Bio go. They took Bio's information and they let him go. They said, "Yo, anybody complain, we're gonna lock you up." And luckily nobody complained. And we was doing stuff for Joe. We came out in his first video. I got a Flow Joe. And, you know, ever since we just been friends, you know, we've just been, you know, friends like to this day. And then Pun, you know, again, we met him through, you know, halftime. I met Pun through halftime through BRIM. BRIM used to run Fat Joe's store up in 149th Street and 3rd Avenue. And Pun was there, and that's how I met Pun. Pun was a comedian. He used to love snapping. And I remember Brim telling me, "Yo, man, snap on him, man. Snap on that fat motherfucker, man." And you know, and I was like, "Yo, I don't even know the guy, you know." But Pun became like, you know, a good friend with us too, because he knew that, you know, we were showing him love, and he showed us love, and that's what it was. And I remember when he dropped his first album, we did the same thing with what we did with Joe. We went up and we did a lot of posters for Pun. You know, we were going everywhere. Like, I remember one time, you know, we used to meet with Joe at 12 in the morning. So we was already kind of tired. And we go bombing these posters everywhere. And it was like 6 in the morning. He said, "Yo, we're going to go somewhere else to do more posting." I remember being on the highway, and me and Bio looked at each other like, "Yo, Bio, man, I'm tired. I want to go home." You know, this guy, Joe, comes at 12. You know, we've been up since early. And we told Joe, "Yo, we need to do number one, man. We do number one." So he pulled over and we started running. Like, fuck this, man. Fuck you, Joe, we out. And we broke out, and Joe knew already we was tired. Joe already knew that we've been getting busy with him all day, all week. So, you know, he didn't say nothing. He just looked at us running, and he just left.
Okay. When Pun passed away, y'all painted a wall in his honor. Whose idea was it?
You know, I think we heard it in the news, and I think, you know, like, we were like, "Damn, nigga, Pun passed away." You know, so I don't know who came up with the idea, like, you know, let's paint Pun. And, you know, to be truthful in the story is, I actually was coming back from Germany in a flight with Brim. You know, we was doing like some apparel for Fat Joe's line. And me and Brim was coming back from the airline, and people telling us that Big Pun passed away. Like, no, you know, like getting off the plane. So I had reached out to, you know, to the crew, and they say it's true. And when we landed, you know, these guys already was painting the wall already. You know, so I'm landing, and it's like the most cold day ever, the coldest day ever. So I got off, and we was doing, you know, Nicey was rocking the Pun, the Bob was doing the letters, the twins was doing the background, Sentu was doing something else, and then I came through, I started helping Nicer, and, you know, we got to finish the whole wall, you know, like, it was like bugged out to just, you know, come, you know, landing from a trip that I was coming from Germany to, I'm painting this wall. And then the second day, so it was a 2-day wall that we painted. So we went back a second day, started painting the wall. And the ill thing happened that each of the crew members was getting arrested. You know, Bio got arrested, Nicer got arrested, the twins got arrested, and they was looking for me, but what happened is I had a hoodie, I think I had a FUBU hoodie during that time, and I had took the hoodie off, so I think they lost me in the crowd, so they didn't know where I was, so they couldn't lock me up. So I went home to find out the next morning that my whole crew was locked up. So, you know, and so when I got to the office, I had like 10 missed calls already. And I started listening to the message and say, "Yo, your boys got locked up. Did Pun really died?" And I'm like, "Wow, what's going on here? My crew got locked up, you know, for what?" Oh, and then I found out that the crew got locked up through the lawyers that they got locked up for for writing on the wall, doing illegal graffiti on the wall. I said, no way. How? We got permission, And then the Vandal police was going to the landlord's house and harassing. And she was a woman landlord. He was harassing her because they had called her to tell her that they had kids painting graffiti on her wall. So if somebody come up to you and say, yo, kids are painting graffiti on the wall, the first thing you do is, lock them up. But, they didn't say it was us, T.A.T. They didn't say we was painting a mural. They just said it like in a way that to make it sound like we was doing something bad. And next thing, that same day, they had let go the whole crew, and they said, look, we're going to drop everything, because what happened was the landlady, she went, I'm not locking these guys up. I love these guys. You know what I'm saying? We're not locking these guys up. And then the police was saying, yeah, he said, yeah. And she had to call the congressman and call everybody, to let her know that she was saying that she didn't want to press charges and the police to leave her alone. And that was a mission, you know what I'm saying? Like that whole day, and next thing you know, the crew came back, and and it was bugged out to hear like how it happened, how Bar got locked up, how Nicer got locked up, the twins got locked up. They all got locked up in different time, different places, and and luckily I'm the one that made move for these guys to come out, because I was calling people, making sure all these guys came out.
Okay, you mentioned Sim too. How did you meet him, and what's your favorite story with Sim?
Sim too was a guy that came from Puerto Rico. I think he was painting with Ken and Sim, and so they brought him by. And that time he was really busy doing commercial work, doing like a lot of work. So we always needed like somebody that could come and help us. So we asked him, and he said, yeah, I don't mind. The guy was he was cool. He was active, was strong. So we asked him, come through and come paint, come get busy and work with us. So he did that for many years until he decided to do his own thing.
Okay, we talked about a lot of things today. Is there something that we missed out that you would want to touch on?
Nothing. The only thing the only good thing right now for 2021 is basically, I'm working on canvases. Anybody that's looking to get, my type of painting, they're reaching out to me on my DM, they're reaching out to me on my Facebook, or they hit the office and say, yo, I would love to get a Bg183 painting. And I do a lot of these hydrant painting that I do, and I do a lot of background. They love my style of letters. So the good thing is I could flow so many ways when I do graffiti that, I get a lot of calls, to paint a dog or to do faces, for their family or portrait, and everything down the line. One of the best things that they've been asking me is they always want for me to do like a portrait for like the neighborhood where they live at. I did like a couple portraits like that put my family in this neighborhood. So I drew that. I did like 2 or 3 paintings like that. I did a painting that went into a book. So I just getting busy doing that, and and then us as a crew, we continuously painting every day, and they love how we create something that they ask for. So sometimes they ask for stuff, and we're doing it.
Okay, any last words or shout outs to family members or friends?
Shout out to everyone in the graph world, keep doing your thing, get busy. You ever want to come to New York, you know, to paint with me, just, you know, just hit me up. Peace.